When I think about my vegan journey, I believe it really started around the time that we adopted our rescue Ruby. Before that, I had always loved animals, but I had never really brought one into my life, being basically a city girl. But when we rescued Ruby, I had the opportunity to see that this was going to be our family member and that she had the same wants and needs and desires that every person that I know had. She was every bit as important, and she became our family. This really opened my heart, quite frankly. And I was at that time that I was hearing things on NPR about people with their pet chickens, that was a new concept for someone like myself. What do you mean a pet chicken? But this chicken is running around the house and they have emotions and they have quirks and personalities and they're loved. And I thought, this is beautiful. I had never really taken the time to take that in, that there's more than just people out there, that there's animals that have lives, that have hopes and dreams, and that have families, and they want to stay together, and they want to live their lives out to the fullest. And that at some point I came to understand that animals aren't here for us. They're here because they're here. And they have as much right to live out their lives as nature intended as you and I. So I think at that point, I had just had enough. For me, it was all about the animals. I just realized that on factory farms, these poor animals don't even get a life, that we torture them from the moment they're born to the minute they leave us. And it's just not right. And I don't need to participate in this anymore. And so I just made that decision that day, and that was it.
Welcome to the Better Life for Animals podcast, where we amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. Through powerful stories and expert insights, we shine a light on the efforts to rescue, protect, and advocate for animals. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Every follower helps us reach more people. And support animal sanctuaries. Enjoy the conversation.
So about 20 years ago, when I committed to becoming a vegan, for a while that was enough. And I didn't really spend too much time worrying about what anyone else was doing. But then I really do believe that my heart continued to expand, because I realized, as an able-bodied person with some gifts that I have been given, that I have a responsibility to do more, that I could be an advocate for animals, because we just don't have enough of us. And while sometimes it may seem, if you're in the vegan space, like we're all talking about the same thing, the reality is there's only about 2% of us, depending on who you ask. And that is not enough to push the needle, to change this for the animals. So I have been committed for some time trying to figure out what more can I do. And I've considered many different things. I've volunteered, I've donated, and it came to me basically about 6 months ago that I needed to do more, and that there is a space where the sanctuaries who are just not getting the attention that they deserve, we could be focusing on them and helping so many animals and helping so many people, because people go to these sanctuaries also. So it benefits everyone to see animals in their natural state. Because if you are like me, you grew up in a city, you don't really have an opportunity to see animals that, for example, cows that can grow to be massive. You would not have known that, because most cows are extinguished way before their lifespan is ready to be over. So I have taken on this mantle of having a podcast with Better Life for Animals to highlight all the people that are doing this amazing work, and also all those people that are working at those sanctuaries who sometimes just don't have the time or the finances to get the word out there. For anyone who's what I call vegan curious, who knows that there are suffering animals out there who want to make a difference, this podcast is for you. This podcast is also for you if you'd like to see animals live their lives out on their own terms, and you'd like to help support the sanctuaries out there that are doing that very hard work. This podcast is for you if you're already a vegan and you want to reinforce your beliefs and your commitment because, there's nothing like a community to keep us all together. We all need that connection, and we provide a lot of that on this podcast at Better Life for Animals. Sanctuaries do such a vital role in establishing and providing shelter for rescue animals. But I don't think everyone realizes how difficult that work really is. Think about the fact that there's no days off. There's very oftentimes there's not a lot of people on hand to do the hard labor that's required to clean and to keep animals safe and secure. There's people do realize that there's feed involved, that there is continual maintenance that needs to be addressed. There are vet bills, which can be quite extensive. And a lot of these people just don't have those kind of funds. They started this out of compassion. They started this from a place from their hearts, but they didn't necessarily have deep pockets. So our hope with Better Life for Animals is to shed a light on some of the great work that these individuals and places are doing so that we can help them as a community, because those animals deserve to be here. And they also help us. They help us see this is how animals are meant to live. This is animals and nature in its natural state. And as we want to shut down the zoos, we want to transition these animals into places that are safe and where they can live life on their own terms. You may not realize this, but just housing, say, 3 horses could easily run $1,000 a month, and it goes up from there. So a lot of ways that you could help. You can get involved in your local community shelters, the sanctuaries that are around. You can go visit them, see what they need. You can participate in their open houses as a way to generate revenue and to bring your family and friends to see what good work they're doing. You can participate in their fun meat projects that they often put out there. I know of a situation where one sanctuary is building fence around their property in order to protect their animals, and they're asking everyone to donate $25 for a post, and they're willing to put anything you want on that post. I think that's a very original and fabulous way that you can get involved. I also think if you're so inclined, you could get in there and volunteer. They never have enough hands to take care of all the animals. There's always more need than there is supply. Before this podcast was in my mind, I remember during the pandemic, I was so upset over the fact that they were pouring out cow's milk that I just felt I had to write a book about the subject. So I did, and the name of it is Gabriel. And I ended up writing 3 books about factory farming for children, basically, about first cows. Then I went into the whole chicken and fowl category. And then the last book, Pickle, is about pigs in the sanctuaries, how they find one little pig starts off in a very fraught situation and finds himself in a sanctuary. So I want to shine a light on all the cruelty that's out there. I really do believe that we have to start young, because children are, they're pure. They wouldn't, if they really understood what they were eating, I don't think they would want to participate. So I've written 3 books to facilitate that. And I also want to raise money for those people who are doing such great work. I have made a personal pledge to raise $100,000 for Mercy for Animals, because I just think they do fabulous work around factory farming. And these podcasts will hopefully shine a light on not only the animals and the people that are doing excellent work out there. I want everyone to get the benefit of that with this exposure, but also to help sell some books, which is going to help sanctuaries and nonprofits such as Mercy for Animals. I want to remind you that you are listening to the Better Life for Animals podcast. I would love it if you could like us and subscribe. because that helps other people find the show, which we think is going to be so beneficial because we're going to be shining a light on so many of those unsung heroes. In addition to the fabulous authors and activists out there, we're talking about those people who get up at before the crack of dawn to distribute hay and make sure that their fences are properly secured and make sure that everyone is safe. They do this day in, day out without any glory, and they need our support. So please subscribe to Better Life for Animals. Now, maybe you're not vegan yet. And you're thinking, how am I going to do this? This just sounds so complicated. Well, here's what I want to say is it's not. You're eating everything except. People say, well, what do you eat? I say, I eat everything that except for meat and dairy. There's a lot of options out there. There's beautiful fruits and vegetables. There's grains, there's legumes. It's not difficult. And when you're coming from a place of compassion, it gets easier every day. Now, I'm not saying you need to do this cold turkey. You can start off slow. You can decide, okay, I'm going to just eliminate certain things. Maybe I'll find a substitute because there are a lot of substitutes out there right now. But just look at what you're eating, think about what you're eating, and wonder, now, where did that food come from? And maybe I don't want to participate in that. So remove that one. And then think, okay, now what am I going to eat? And replace it with something else, like a grain, like a lentil. Those are excellent sources of protein. And don't worry, by the way, about your protein. That is really just a fallacy. There is plenty of protein in plants, which is where the animals that you have been consuming up until now have been getting that protein. So it's just an inefficient way to get protein. And by the way, we all know it's cruel. So why would you want to participate in that? If I may tell you, yesterday there was a picture on social media about little tiny newborn baby pigs in the hole in the meat section, covered in cellophane. And somebody was asking, well, what do you think of this? And I thought, of course, that it was tragic and sad. But you know what I have to say is like, well, at least that's real. That's what you're actually getting. When it's all cut up and sanitized, you don't really have to make that connection between this chicken thigh is an animal, but it is. And some other ways that you can be more compassionate is to consider what you're wearing. The leather industry is a byproduct of this cruelty. You don't need to participate in that. There are lots of wonderful alternatives today in shoe wear and in belts. You don't need to have a leather bag, believe me. Another way is to look at the labels because so often animals are being tested on, your beauty products, your shampoos, your makeup. But I'm here to tell you that there are lots of wonderful options out there. You just have to do a Google search and say, where are the cruelty-free products? And that information is available. So you don't have to participate. This is what's so wonderful about living in today's world at this time is that we have so many options. There's a lot of awareness. There's a lot of support. And that's the other thing I might recommend is when you're starting to make these changes, get the right kind of support. We all need it. And, you need to have your friends that are committed to helping you on this journey. I find mine online sometimes. It's okay. It's worth it. Going forward, my hope for this podcast and for Better Life for Animals is to shine a light on all the unsung heroes out there that are doing amazing work for the animals, as well as the fabulous advocates and authors. We have interviewed so many already, and I'm just so impressed with everything that I'm learning and how we can all, with this additional information, I think it helps to deepen our commitment to a more compassionate world. Because I happen to believe that while sometimes it seems like it couldn't possibly happen, once you change your mind, once you change your heart, you can be done. And if that can work for one person, it can work for several, and it can work for thousands, and we can change this. Collectively, we can make it for better life for animals. I want to thank you for listening to Better Life for Animals today. I'm your host, Cheryl Moss, and I hope that you have found this informative. And we have so many good guests in the pipeline. I am very excited that I hope you will subscribe and stick with us. And also, if you know anyone who could use our attention, please feel free to reach out. We're always looking for compassionate voices to help us with our podcast and our message here at Better Life for Animals.
Thank you for joining us on the Better Life for Animals podcast. Together, we can create a world where all beings are treated with dignity, respect, and care. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. It helps us reach more people and spread awareness about the incredible work happening in animal sanctuaries. You can also share this episode with friends and fellow advocates to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep speaking up, taking action, and making a difference for the animals.